All right, so once again, we're going to do what we did yesterday. We were looking at how to find the angle. We're going to find the measure of the indicated angle to the nearest degree. And we're going to use some people call it trigonometric ratios, some people call it trigonometric equations. Now, people call it trigonometric ratios because there's a fraction of it. So the ratios because we're dealing with fractions. Some people call it trigonometric equations because there's an equal sign in their question. So however you guys want to call it. So the way we do this, I'm looking at question number 5. I remembered I gave you guys, so let me zoom in here. I gave you guys an acronym SOHCAHTOA. So for sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now looking at question number 5, the measurements that I have from the angle, I have the opposite and I have the adjacent. So based on that, I'm going to be using tangent. Based on TOA, I'm going to be using tangent. So I'm going to say tangent of x. Remember that question mark, since I don't know what value it is, I'm calling it x. So I said tangent of x equals, I know tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to go 9 over 22. It will be nice if the x and the 9 over 22 could switch places. That way I have the x by itself. And they can switch places, but instead of calling it tangent, I'm gonna say tan inverse. It looks like tangent to the -1, but in reality we call it tan inverse. Later on, you guys are gonna meet some people that they even call it arctan. It's just how you want to call it. So tangent inverse or arctangent. Most people call it inverse, but tan inverse, I'm just gonna say of 9 over 22 is equal to x. But once again, the x and the fraction, they were able to switch places, but from tangent, it became tangent inverse. All right, let me get my calculator. Let's see. I'm gonna move my calculator out of the way. An emphasis again, make sure you have your calculator on degrees. In my case, I have to do the fraction first. I'm gonna go 9 over 22. Now press enter. It gives me a big decimal. And then I'm gonna go on my trig functions. I have to press second. I have to do tangent inverse. And it tells me 22.2. Since I'm going to the nearest degree, that means the nearest whole number. 22.2, I'm gonna abbreviate that as 22. So my angle is 22 degrees. Now you can just write x equals 22. But when you type it, I'm just looking for the number 22. So when you type it, you don't have to type x equals 22. It's just 22. All right, let's take a look at number 6. We have the hypotenuse. We have the adjacent. So based on that, I'm going to be using cosine because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm just going to write that cosine of x is equal to 5 over 12. So then I'm going to say that cosine inverse of 5 over 12 is equal to x. Okay, so let me get my calculator out. So I'm going to 5 over 12. Get my decimal part. I have to press second. That way I see cosine inverse 65.3. So I'm going to say that is 65. That angle is 65. All right, let's take a look at question number 7. I have the hypotenuse and I have the adjacent. That means I'm going to be using cosine. So I'm going to say cosine of x is equal to 22 over 30. So then I'm going to say that cosine inverse of 22 over 34 is equal to x. All right, let me get my calculator out. 22 divided by 34 is equal. And then I'm going to go my trig function. I have to press second. Cosine inverse. 49.6. I want to round up to 50. So I'm going to call this 50 degrees. All right, let's take a look at question number 8. I'm given the opposite and the adjacent. So based on that, I'm going to be using tangent. I'm just going to say that tangent of x is equal to 5 over 7. So tangent inverse of 5 over 7 is equal to x. Now let me do 5 over 7, right? 5 divided by 7. I get a decimal for that. And I'm going to go my trig, second function, tangent inverse, 35.5. I have to round it to the nearest whole number. So I'm going to call that 36. So for my example, I had tangent and cosine. For your homework, you could either have either of the three, sine, cosine, and tangent. It is depending on the two sides that are given. If I give you opposite and hypotenuse, then you're going to have to use sine. If I give you the adjacent and hypotenuse, then you're going to have to use cosine. If I give you the opposite and the adjacent, then you're going to have to use tangent.